Welcome to Family Basics 101. I'm Dr. Bruce McClure, the local minister at the Prince George's Church of Christ, located at 7800 Central Avenue in Landover, Maryland. Throughout the week, we've studied specific lessons about unexpected people in the Bible who changed, and honestly, people probably would have least expected these individuals to change their behaviors. This is an encouragement to each of us that regardless of our backgrounds, regardless of where we've come from, regardless of what we have experienced, the choice to change for the better is always a choice that we're all capable of making if we trust God and if we simply learn to walk by faith. I want us to conclude our week series by looking at a Bible character that is in the family of Saul. Yesterday, we talked about Jonathan, but today I'd like for us to talk about yet another member of Saul's family who indeed made a conscious decision to change for the better. When we look at predicting the potential for spiritual success, it is always predicated upon some basic biblical foundations. For instance, in the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verse number 24, therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. Jesus uttered that same message in Matthew chapter 19, verse number 5. And he said, for this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. In Mark chapter 10, verse number 17, which is simply a repeat of what was stated in Matthew chapter 19, verse 5, for this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife. Paul uttered basically the same message in Ephesians, the 5th chapter, beginning at verse number 31. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Well, leave means to loosen from, to set free, to let go, to loosen in order to stand up, and in turn for one to turn and move about freely. And what was expected even from Genesis chapter 2, is that families, men and women who engage in the act of marriage, they be able to be loosened from, set free from, and let go to join themselves properly to their new relationship of marriage. Now, Saul's troubled spirit and child rearing is going to come up over and over again in his own daily walk. Look at the text of 1 Samuel chapter 19, verses 8 through 10. 1 Samuel 19, verses 8 through 10. And there was war again, and David went out and fought with the Philistines and struck them with a mighty blow, and they fled from him. Now the distressing spirit from the Lord came upon Saul as he sat in his house with his spear in his hand, and David was playing music with his hand. Then Saul sought to pin David to the wall with a spear, but he slipped away from Saul's presence, and he drove the spear into the wall. So David fled and escaped that night. Saul did not know how to be a good parent. And because Saul was not a good parent, he did not really know how to treat other people. You remember On yesterday, we talked about Saul attempting to kill his own son, Jonathan. And Jonathan understood, my father has no regard for anyone, not even his own children. Well, in today's lesson, we're looking not at Jonathan, but we're looking at Saul's daughter. 1 Samuel 18, verses 20 through 28. David is going to marry Saul's daughter, Michal, because she loved him. Now, Michal, Saul's daughter, loved David, and they told Saul, and the thing pleased Saul. So Saul said, I will give her to him, that she may be a snare to him, and that the hand of the Philistines may be against him. Therefore Saul said to David a second time, you shall be my son-in-law today. David had no intent. David's focus was not on Saul's daughter. Saul's daughter's focus was on David. What man would give his daughter in marriage to a man that he knew had no interest in his daughter? Well, Saul, because Saul was really a very incapable parent. He was going to kill his own son, and now he's dumping his daughter on his very adversary, a man he hates. And Saul said, I'm going to give her to him that she may be a snare to him, and that the hand of the Philistines may be against him. Well, what does that mean? The Philistines hated Saul. Well, that also indicates they would hate the inhabitants of Saul's household, his children as well. So Saul's mindset is, if I allow David, who killed the giant, and if I allow David, who went in a second time and destroyed the Philistines, to marry my daughter, the Philistines are going to hate him even more, because they'll now see him as a part of my family. Now, this is how Saul is treating his daughter. He's loosening her. He's allowing her to go, but he is setting her up in his mind for failure. So Michal left her father Saul, as she leaves her father for David, whom she loved. Look at the text of 1 Samuel chapter 19, verses 11 and 12. Saul also sent messengers to David's house to watch him and to kill him in the morning. And Michal, David's wife, told him, she told David, you must get out of here. If you do not save your life tonight, tomorrow you will be killed. So Michal left David, she let David down through a window, and he went and fled and escaped. Remember, Saul said she'll be a snare to him. But because she understood love, she's going to be a blessing to David. Look at 1 Samuel 19, verses 13 and 14. And Michal took an image and laid it in the bed, put a cover of goat's hair for his head, and covered it with clothes. So when Saul sent messengers to take David, she said, he's sick. See, she's covering for David. She's protecting David, but David is already gone. But she's buying time. She is saying, no, he's in the bed, but he's sick. He can't come to where you are. Look at verses 15 through 17 of 1 Samuel 19. Then Saul sent the messengers back to see David, saying, bring him up to me in the bed, that I may kill him. Here's a man sick, supposedly. And Saul's spirit is, I don't care if he is sick. If he can't walk, bring him lying in the bed. And if he's that sick, I'll just kill him in the bed. So when the messengers had come in, there was the image in the bed with a cover of goat's hair for his head. It's not David in the bed. But guess who has put this scam together to deceive her father? It's Saul's daughter. She's understanding, I love my father, but I love my husband even more. And because I understand the principle of a man leaving his father and mother and cleaving to his wife, Michal understood that same principle applies to the wife. So she puts her husband before her father. Well, her actions of love actually saved her father's life. In verse number 17 of 1 Samuel 19, then Saul said to Michal, this is his daughter, why have you deceived me like this and sent my enemy away so that he has escaped? And Michal answered Saul, this is her father. He said to me, let me go. Why should I kill you? Well, Michal lies. David is not going to kill her. She's the one that told David, if you do not leave, my father is going to kill you. But because of her love for her father, she tells her father, the reason I let him go is so that he would not destroy me. Well, what Michal understood by David's actions, he had killed the Philistine giant. He had gone out a second time and routed the Philistine army. What she figured out is that David could kill my father anytime he chooses. So her response was, why should I kill you? That's what David said to me. But what she's really saying is, it wasn't me that he was going to kill. If my husband had not left, he would have killed you. And that would have broken my heart. So Michal's action of love toward her husband may be a greater message about the love she has for her father. See, you can love people who really don't understand how to love themselves or how to love others. You see that with Jonathan. Jonathan loved his father, but his father could not give love in return. It appears this way with Saul's daughter. She loved David. She loved her father, but her father could not give love in return because he had made a choice. Maybe from the pain that he had experienced, I don't know. But each person has the opportunity to navigate through his or her pain and change. Some of the most unexpected people in the world, history will show, had the ability to change. Many did, but some chose not to. Whenever the decision is made not to change for the better, it's a personal internal decision, because we all, every last one of us, we can change from bitter to love. We can change from being despiteful to loving people. We can change from being people of hate to people who care. But it's a decision that each one of us must make inside of ourselves. I hope that the lesson series this week has been a blessing to you as it has been to me. I look forward and I invite you to join us this Sunday at 9 a.m. for Bible study at the building. I also encourage you to join us at 10 a.m. for our Sunday morning worship. If we do not see you this weekend at Bible class or worship in person in the building, feel free to tune in by Facebook, YouTube, or even our church website. If we do not have you online this weekend, please join us again on Monday as we reconvene for Family Basics 101. Don't be late and don't skip class.